Hi everyone, you're watching the Virtual Amicus and I am Jay Lodha. So today's session is on the topic time limit for passing an arbitral award. Now we all are aware that section 29A of the Arbitration and Conciliation Act provides that an arbitral award shall be passed within 12 months from the date when the arbitral tribunal enters upon the reference. Now that this duration can further be extended by 6 months when there's a consent or with the consent of both the parties. Now, can this period further be extended? And what happens when these 18 months have been exhausted from the time when the arbitral tribunal has entered upon the reference? Now, does the mandate of the arbitrator terminate in that case? Or can the court in that circumstance intervene or either prior to or after the expiry of the award so as to extend that period? Now, to elaborate further, we have with us a special speaker who joins us from Mumbai. Now, we have with us amicus for today's session, Mrs. Niyati Mankad. Just to give you all a brief introduction about our speaker for today's session, Mrs. Niyati Mankad has completed her Chartered Accountancy and Masters of Law in Intellectual Property Rights from Mumbai University. She has been practicing as an advocate since past 8 years. She is currently working in Haqqani Legal and looks after litigation practice, indirect tax, and intellectual property rights practice of the firm. She has formerly worked with firms like TLC Legal and PDS Legal in the field of indirect taxes. She also teaches GST laws to diploma students of Siddharth College of Law. So thank you so much, Ms. Niyati Haqqani, for taking out time on a busy working day on a Tuesday evening, and that too on a very interesting topic, on a very interesting issue, which is the time period that it takes for passing of an arbitral award. So any introductory remarks before we start our session?
Thank you, Jay, for such a warm welcome. And I also want to thank you for taking up this initiative of knowledge sharing and starting this channel. It's a great contribution to our profession and also to the people at large. And I also request our viewers to like, share, and subscribe to this channel. And with that, I would like to proceed with our today's session.
Please proceed.
I'll just share the presentation. So, as Jay has already said that I will be covering on the time limit for passing the arbitral award. But before I do that, I would like to first talk about briefly on the history, introduction and history of arbitration in India. So prior to the Arbitration and Conciliation Act 1996, we had two other acts, which was the Indian Arbitration Act of 1899, and also then, and subsequent to that, there was Arbitration Act 1940. So this Indian Arbitration Act 1899 was statutorily recognized as a form of dispute resolution, but it was only applicable or confined to the three presidency towns, that is Madras, Bombay, and Calcutta. And it was also codified in the CPC in section 18.9. But it was found to be too inexpedient and more technical, and therefore came the Arbitration Act 1940, repealing the earlier act and also the provision contained in the CPC. Now, this Arbitration Act of 1940 was a reflection of the English Arbitration Act 1934. However, it only provided for the domestic arbitrations and did not provide anything for enforcement of foreign awards. If one had to enforce the foreign awards, for that we had the Foreign Awards Recognition and Enforcement Act 1961, which was enacted to enforce awards under the Geneva Conventions 1927 and New York Conventions, to which India was signatory. This legislation was also found unsatisfactory due to judicial intervention. So in 1977, the functioning of the Act was questioned and examined by the Law Commission of India on grounds of delay and hardship caused due to clause that affected the smooth arbitral proceedings. And therefore, it came into existence the Arbitration and Conciliation Act 1996. Now, it is also important to note that in any of these enactments, there was no time limit provided that was mandatorily applicable or that made sure that the proceedings were completed in a short period of time. The main purpose of going for alternate dispute resolution so that one does not have to face the long-standing proceedings of the court. So even in the Arbitration and Conciliation Act 1996 until the 2015 amendment, there was no provision which put a time limit to this proceeding. So most of us must have noticed that even the arbitration proceeding would take years, and the other side, which is the respondents would always take a lot of time, would take out frivolous applications and delay the proceedings. So with that, therefore came the Arbitration and Conciliation Amendment Act 2014, which came into force with effect from 23rd October 2015. It was introduced to make India more arbitration friendly, and its object was to provide a quick procedure that prevented undue delays in dispute settlement procedures. So this act also introduced a fast track procedure in under section 29B. So it allowed parties to avoid over oral hearings, and one can only, and the arbitral tribunal would only pass an award based on the documents or pleadings which are filed. I'll be discussing that in detail later. So after the 2015 Amendment Act, even came the 2019 Amendment, which came into force with effect from 9th August 2019. So with this amendment, it excluded international commercial arbitrations from the strict timelines which have been provided in 29A. Just for knowledge, this timeline which has been introduced by way of section 29A is very similar to section 50 of the UK's Arbitration Act, which also provides for similar timelines. I will proceed with the analysis of section 29A. Now this section provides that then an arbitral tribunal shall make an award within a period of 12 months from the date of completion of pleadings. So earlier, so under the 2015 Amendment Act, the timeline was 12 months from the date on which the arbitral tribunal entered upon its reference. But after the 2019 Amendment Act, they have amended the provision and have provided that 12 months have to be counted from the date the pleadings are completed. This is because under the 2015 Amendment Act, it was noticed that it was not possible for the arbitral tribunal in most of the cases to complete the proceedings, and in most of the situations, the pleadings were only not completed. So 12 months from date of proceedings was a date on which the arbitral tribunal entered upon reference was a bit tedious. So they came up with this amendment. Now so as I already said earlier, with the 2019 Amendment Act, international commercial arbitrations are not covered, 29A is not applicable to them, because of which it only merely provides that the tribunal shall make an award as expeditiously as possible, and an endeavor may be made to dispose of the matter within a period of 12 months from date of completion of pleadings under section 23(4). Now, as the section provides that 12 months have to be computed from the date of completion of pleadings. Now, what do we mean by completion of pleadings? So this pleadings are provided in section 2, is covered by section 23 of the Act. Now, as we all know, once the arbitral tribunal is established, the claimant which has invoked the arbitration has to file a statement of claim. And this statement of claim will contain the statement of facts, the issue points at issue, and the relief or remedies that the claimant is seeking. Once the statement of claim is filed, it has to also file its all the evidences that it relies upon, all the documents, and then the respondent has to file a statement of defense to that claim. Along with that, the respondent can also file counterclaim or may plead set off, provided it falls within the scope of arbitration. Now, this pleadings would mean statement of claim and the statement of defense. Now, this can be completed. This has to be completed within a period of 6 months from the date the arbitrator or the arbitrators receive notice in writing for their appointment. So basically, once it enters upon reference or the date on which they are appointed, they receive the notice in writing. From that date till for next 6 months, from that date for another 6 months, they have to complete these pleadings. And the time limit of 12 months for making the award will start after the completion of this pleadings. So there is this one lacuna which has been is there in the provision, because the provision does not provide for any consequences where the pleadings are not completed within the prescribed period of 6 months. Now there are various arbitral proceedings where we have seen that the parties keep on taking out amendment applications, and because of which the pleadings on itself don't get over in the 6 months period. In fact, it goes on for years at this altogether, and deciding that amendment application itself takes a very long time. So this has not been considered in the provision. So now what is the consequence if the award is passed within 6 months? Now, as discussed that award has to be passed within a period of 12 months after the completion of pleading. So one has 6 months time for completing the pleadings and 12 months for making the award. So total period of 18 months. Now there may be a scenario that after completion of pleadings, the arbitral tribunal passes an award within 6 months itself. So in that situation, the arbitral tribunal will be entitled to receive additional fees which the parties may agree. Now, what is the consequence if his award is not passed within 12 months? Now, if the award is not passed within 12 months, then in that case, the parties by consent may extend the period by another 6 months. Now, what is the situation if the further extension, if the parties do not consent for further extension, then in that situation, the parties, any of the parties may approach the court for further extension of the period. Now, which code one has to apply? As now, either the parties have not consented for 6 months, then in that case, 12 months plus 6 months after 18 months, excluding the period for within which the pleadings are completed. Then, in that much time, if the award is not passed, then the any of the parties may approach the court. Now, court would mean this. Now, in this in the while interpreting the term court, there are contrary views taken by different high courts. Actually, only Kerala High Court has taken a view that court would mean principal civil court, as Kerala High Court did not possess original civil jurisdiction. So in that situation, it said it would go before the district court or the principal civil court. So it considered the section 21E of the act and said court would mean principal civil court. But Gujarat High Court, in this case of Nilesh Ramanbhai Patel versus Bhanubhai Ramanbhai Patel, so in this case, it held that court would mean that court which had the power to appoint arbitrators. Now, this is because in section 29A, which I will be covering later on, the court also has the power to substitute arbitrators. So they said that since in domestic arbitrations, the power to appoint arbitrator under section 11 is with the High Court. In case of international commercial arbitration, it is Supreme Court. Since if they are the ones who are to appoint arbitrators, then they can only be the ones to substitute the arbitrators. So they refer to section 21E. They also consider the scope, the scheme of the provision of the act, and based on that, they came to the conclusion that court would mean High Court in case of domestic arbitrations. Now, this view was further reiterated by Bombay High Court in the case of Kabra Installations y Servicios SA versus Maharashtra Electricity Distribution Company Limited. In fact, this view has also been taken by Delhi High Court in 2020, in this case DDA versus Tarachand Sumit Construction, and also by Calcutta High Court. In fact, Delhi High Court has also taken into consideration the view taken by Kerala High Court and relied heavily on the Gujarat High Court case and said that court would mean that court which would have jurisdiction to appoint arbitrators. I would just like to point out that in case of Kabra Installations y Servicios, in that case, the Bombay High Court had interpreted the term court in terms of in a case which was pertaining to an international commercial arbitration, because it was a case prior to 2019 where 29A also applied to international commercial arbitrations. Now, once an application has to be filed, now when can such an application be filed? So any party to an arbitration can apply to court for further extension either prior to or after the expiry of the period specified. Now, court may grant such extension only for sufficient cause and only on such terms and conditions as may be imposed. So while granting extension, the court also has the power to impose conditions. Now, in my personal experience, there was one case where extension was sought by we were for the respondent, and extension was sought by the claimant. And after going through the proceedings, through the proceedings of the arbitration, the court came to the conclusion that the delay was more so attributable to the claimant. So the court ordered that and also because the claimant did not appoint an advocate and kept on delaying on the ground of his ignorance of law. So the court made it mandatory for the claimant to make sure that all the submissions in the arbitral tribunal, before the arbitral tribunal, are made only and only through the advocate and not by him, to avoid any such delay in future. And also it imposed cost on the claimant. So you can see that because the power is there, it can impose terms and conditions. And I will, as discussed by me, the court can also impose actual or exemplary cost upon any of the parties. Now, suppose if the court finds that the proceedings were delayed for reasons attributable to the arbitral tribunal, then the court may also order reduction of fees of the arbitrator, but it cannot exceed 5% for each month of such delay. So in this, but before the court reduces such fees, it has to give the arbitrator an opportunity of being heard. Now, the Act provides, the section 29A, subsection 5, which talks about such application, states that such application has to be disposed by court as expeditiously as possible, and endeavor should be made to dispose of the matter within a period of 60 days from the date of service of notice on the opposite party. Now, again, this provision is only suggestive in nature. It is not binding, not mandatory, and therefore it on this ground, on this provision, you can say to an extent the timelines fail, because as we have seen that in high court, most of the cases keep on, are pending for a very long period and are not disposed of even. But however, the court has to make an endeavor to dispose of within 60 days. Now, as I told you earlier, that under this section, the court also has is also open to substitute one or more arbitrators. And if suppose the court substitutes one or more of the arbitrators, but arbitral proceedings shall continue from the stage already reached and on the basis of evidence and material already on record, and the arbitrators appointed under this section shall be deemed to have received the said evidence and material. So even if the arbitral tribunal is reconstituted, it will be deemed to be in continuation of the previously constituted arbitral tribunal. Now, as we have seen, there are two things that the court can do in this section. One, it has to see the delay is attributable to whom, and whether how much of the arbitral proceedings have been left out, and are the parties really willing to cooperate with each other and finish off the arbitration, and see to it that the arbitral award is passed. And apart from that, it can substitute one or more of the arbitrators. Now, while doing so, can the court look into other aspects like bias, or bias on part of the arbitrator, or any other ground which the parties may take? So this first came before the Delhi High Court in the case of NCC Limited Union of India through Director General Married Accommodation Project and another. So in this case, the court categorically held that it is intended only to counter the delay in the conclusion of arbitration proceedings and cannot be sought to be utilized for achievement of objectives that are alien to the said purpose. So it held in this. So in this case also, one of the parties had raised grounds like bias against the arbitrator. So court said, no, nothing doing. We can only look into the aspects of delay. We cannot go into other aspect. If required, you can file an application under section 13 before the arbitrator. If you are not if you are aggrieved by that order, you can always challenge it in section 34 application. So remedy is provided, and 29A is not the remedy for those issues. Now, this view was again taken by the Delhi High Court, and also in this case, Orissa Concrete and Allied Industries Limited versus Union of India and another. So again, they reiterated the same view, and they said that if there are any other grounds that one has to take, 34 is always available. So over here, they are restricting the scope only to delay and to ensure that the arbitral proceedings are disposed of as fast as possible and on sufficient grounds being shown. Now, this was again reiterated by Delhi High Court in Sangyong Engineering and Construction Limited, and also taken by High Court of Bombay in FCA Automobiles Private Limited versus Torque Motors Cars Private Limited in this case also. So they have basically rejected all the other applications which are taken out by the parties in 29A application, restricted to the scope of examination in terms of delay and delay only and nothing else. Now, just on a similar note, since 29A provides for various scenarios, so Gujarat High Court has held that it is a complete code in itself. So the examination of aforesaid precedents categorically demonstrate that the scope of adjudication in an application for extension under 29A pertains only to aspect of delay. Now, what happens if uh, the extension is not granted by court, or the time limit provided in the extension is also expired, or so in that, or no application for extension in court has been made, and the proceedings have not been completed and the award has not been passed. So in that situation, the mandate of the arbitrator terminates, and the arbitrate tribunal cannot proceed further, whatever the stage of the proceedings may be. So it terminates and nothing one can do about it. Now, what is the applicability of the amended section 29A? So now there are various scenarios where the arbitral tribunal arbitration proceedings commenced under the 2015 Amendment Act, but now it is still pending after the 2019 Amendment Act. Then in that situation, will the amended provision apply? Because under 2015, as I discussed earlier, the 12 months period had to be computed from the date that arbitral tribunal entered upon reference. But 2019 amendment says that 12 months have to be computed from the date the amended date the pleadings have completed. So this issue has come up before Delhi High Court. There are actually two orders, both by Delhi High Court. Both have been passed by single judge, and in both the situations, the view taken are contrary to each other. Now, in case of Shapoorji Pallonji Company Private Limited versus Jindal India Thermal Power Limited, the court observed that since 23(4) and 29A are procedural laws, they would also be applicable to the pending arbitrations as on the date of amendment. But in this case, MBL Infrastructures Limited versus Rights Limited, it took a contrary view and held that since the notification, so this notification 30th August 2019 is the one by which 2019 Amendment Act came into force. So in that, on reading of that notification, it was observed that it does not have a retrospective effect. Hence, the amended provisions will not apply. So it appears even this issue is open and and continues to remain disputed. Now, I will proceed to discuss 29B of the Act. Now, this 29B is also introduced by way of Amendment Act of 2015, and this provides for a fast track procedure. So, what parties can do is that parties to an arbitration agreement. So, at any stage, either before or at the time of appointment of arbitral tribunal, they can agree in writing to have their disputes resolved by fast track procedure. And this provision 29B will override all the other provisions of the Act. Now, while agreeing to a fast track procedure, they may also decide that the arbitral tribunal shall consist of a sole arbitrator chosen by the parties, and fees and manner of payment of fees will also be as agreed by the parties. Now, what is the procedure to be followed in case of such fast track procedures? So, in case of fast track procedure, as the name suggests, it will be decided only on the basis of pleadings, documents, and submissions, and there will be no oral hearings. However, oral hearings may be held if all the parties make a request for such a oral hearing, or if the arbitral tribunal considers it necessary to have certain issues for clarifying certain issues. Then in that situation, they may hold a oral hearing. Otherwise, the tribunal has to pass an award only and only on the basis of pleadings, documents, and submissions. Now, arbitral tribunal may dispense with any technical formalities if an oral hearing is held and adopt such procedure as deemed appropriate for expeditious disposal of the case. Now, in this case, arbitral tribunal also has the power to call for any further information or clarification from the parties in addition to the documents which have already been filed. Now, what is the time limit applicable to such fast track procedures? Now, in a fast track procedure, the arbitral tribunal has to make an award within a period of 6 months from the date the arbitral tribunal enters upon the reference. So in this case, it is not the date on which pleadings are completed, but the date on which it enters upon reference. But it is important to know that 29B is only optional, and only both the parties to the agreement, arbitration, agree in writing to go for such a procedure, only then it will apply, otherwise it will not. Now, what is the impact of COVID-19 pandemic? Now, as we have all observed, that because of the lockdowns introduced from time to time, and also because even the High Court and Supreme Court and other courts have started conducting online hearings. Similarly, even the arbitrations have started have happening through through use of virtual platforms like Zoom, WebEx, Google Meet, etc. Now, one must also consider that whether or not, under the provisions of the Act, such video conferencing or electronic use of electronic means are valid or not. So for that, we can say, however, the Act is silent on whether arbitration proceedings can be conducted through video conference or electronic means. But for that, we have to first analyze Section 24 of the Act, which deals with hearings and written proceedings, and whereby it entitles the parties to have oral hearings or waive this right if they so deem fit. So the parties have the option to waive their right to a hearing, and it also empowers the arbitral tribunal to decide whether to hold oral hearings for presentation of evidence or for oral argument, or whether the proceeding shall be conducted on basis of documents and other material. So it also provides that arbitral tribunal shall hold oral hearings at an appropriate stage of the proceeding on a request by a party, unless the parties have agreed that no oral hearings shall be held. So even 24, though it talks about oral hearings, but they have not defined what oral hearings are. So then one must look at Section 18 of the Act, which provides for the governing principles, and it provides the crux of the due process, which states that A, treatment of parties with equality, and B, full opportunity to be given to each party to present its case. So as long as the video conferences or use of electronic means, this Section 18 is satisfied, the virtual proceedings will also be considered as valid. Now, as we have known that Supreme Court has from time to time extended the limitation period in view of the lockdowns and difficulty for lawyers to also go to court, approach court. Now, even in various sections like Section 29A, 34, 37, one has to approach the High Court within the time limits prescribed. So in that case, now suppose if the time limit falls within the lockdown period, then what is the consequence? So by order dated 23rd March 2020, in suo motu writ petition civil number 3 of 2020, the Supreme Court has extended the limitation period for all proceedings. Now, subsequently, by order date 6th May 2020, it further ordered that all periods of limit, then it further clarified, because the 23rd March order did not provide specifically for arbitration and negotiable instruments. So it clarified that even the period of limitation which are prescribed under this Act shall be extended with effect from 15th March till further orders to be passed by the court in the present case. So it further held that in case of limitation period expired after 15th March, then the period from 15th March till the date on which the lockdown is lifted in the jurisdictional area where dispute lies or where cause of action arises shall be extended for a period of 15 days after the lifting of lockdown. Then in the case, Delhi High Court in this case of RateGain Travel Technologies Private Limited versus Ujjwal Suri. So in this case, it clarified that since the Supreme Court has already extended the limitation period, so that will apply. So it again clarified that by virtue of this order, in cases where time limit for passing of an arbitral award expires during the lockdown, then no separate petition under 29A is required to be filed. It held that parties would have a period of 2 weeks after lockdown is lifted to approach the court if the need arises. So if the time limit prescribed under this 29A expires during the lockdown period, then once the lockdown is lifted, the parties have 2 weeks time to approach the court for seeking such extension. And it also said that in the meantime, all arbitral proceedings to continue through video conferences if considered feasible. If the parties it is possible for them to conduct it through video conference, then it must be done. It may be carried out through that. Then it subsequently, once again on 10 July 2020, the Supreme Court allowed the modification of earlier order of 6th May. Now this modification was because the Attorney General of India sought certain clarifications, so because of which this modification was given. So by this so the Supreme Court ordered that 29A of the Act does not prescribe a period of limitation but fixes a time to do certain acts, that is making an arbitral award within a prescribed time. So we accordingly direct that aforesaid order shall also apply for extension of time limit for passing arbitral award under section 29A of the said Act. So it modified and said that all these acts, that the extension will also apply to all the acts which have to be done under this act. So similarly, 23(4) of the Arbitration and Conciliation Act provides for a time period of 6 months for completion of statement of claim and defense. We accordingly direct that aforesaid order shall apply for extension of time limit prescribed under 23(4) of the said act. So by this order, it further extended even the time limit for completing the pleadings, since in the earlier order it only provided for extension of time limit, extension of the time limit for making the award, but now by this order it has also clarified that even for completion of pleadings there is an extension granted. However, on 8th March 2021, the Supreme Court has ended this extension of limitation period, and it has given a detailed order on how the time limit will apply. Since it has ended, so after the extension period has ended, then within how much time and what has to be included and how much time one has to make an application under the act has to be made. So that is also provided and how it has to be computed. So with that, I'm concluding today's session, and thank you everyone. I hope this was helpful, and thank you Jay once again for giving me this opportunity.
Thank you so much, Mrs. Niyati Mankar, for an illustrious presentation on the time limit that is prescribed for passing of an arbitral award. And it'll be interesting to see that whether this virus, this COVID-19 pandemic, will reshape the future of arbitration in our country. As quite recently, we've seen in the state of Rajasthan that most of the arbitral proceedings are happening, whether it is filing or whether it is arbitral hearing through the virtual platforms that you had already rightly mentioned. And so let's see how this turns out to be, because obviously the provisions of the act are silent on virtual mode of hearing, because nobody could have foreseen or anticipated this pandemic coming in. So it will be interesting to see whether this becomes the new norm, this becomes the new normal. And any parting words that you wish to say before we end?
To conclude my today's session,
Yes.
though this introduction of 29A and 29B is a very good initiative, and it will definitely make India an arbitral hub for conducting arbitrations. Uh, what I have discussed are only certain teething problems, and once the courts have decided or finalized decided all the disputed questions, I believe it will be a boon for many, and arbitration will genuinely be considered as a better option than going to court.
Absolutely, absolutely. So thank you so much, Mrs. Niyati Mankar, and for this lovely presentation on the time limit that is prescribed for passing of an arbitral award. In the light of all the judicial precedents that you spoke, mentioned, and discussed in great detail. Thank you to all the viewers. Stay tuned. Next episode is on its way. Please like, subscribe, share my channel. Stay home, stay indoors. Please be safe. Venture out only when it's very essential. And thank you once again, Mrs. Mankar. We hope to see you soon on another segment, on another subject altogether. So, all right, everybody, it's goodbye for now. Thank you.
Goodbye, everyone.